In the 3rd year since Dylan took me in, she showered me with affection so much that I forgot I was nothing more than a lowly stand-in, lucky to receive a scrap of her pity only because my face resembled her first love. So when Julian and I were abducted at the same time, she didn't even blink before rescuing him and abandoning me. All she left behind was a single sentence: "Morgan is back, time for you to learn your place. Use this chance to rid yourself of those bad habits." Consequently, my legs were snapped, my eyes gouged out, and in that dark, abandoned boathouse I suffered every imaginable form of torture, bled to death on the very night she became engaged to her first love. Later, she lost her mind, slaughtered everyone who had hurt me including herself. 01 Covered in blood and filth, I materialized in the middle of a glittering gala. Dylan, radiant in a scarlet gown, was toasting with linked arms beside Julian. They looked like a golden couple. The moment they appeared, every eye swung toward them. In contrast, I oozing, stinking ulcers all over might as well have been a dried-up corpse. Only when I realized no one could see me, when the agony abruptly vanished, did I understand, I was already dead. I had died in that lightless boathouse, toyed with for months by kidnappers, tortured until the pain itself killed me. I knelt, sobbing, begging them to let me go. They only smirked. "Sterling told us to teach you a lesson and promised she wouldn't call the cops on us. We'll do the job right, can't let her down." 1 punch, 2 punches, 3, 1 kick, 2 kicks, 3 they smashed my body and trampled whatever dignity I had left. The blood flowed, dried, flowed again, still Dylan never came. When she led Julian away, her eyes brimmed with heartache for him and revulsion for me. "Seems I spoiled you. You actually dared lay filthy hands on Morgan. You're not worth even one of his toes, you were just a plaything, a time killer when I was bored. Time to learn your place. Maybe after you fix your flaws I'll consider seeing you." How foolish I had been, naively believing I was irreplaceable. In truth I was the most laughable, most contemptible substitute. Yet the longing welling up inside pushed me toward her nonetheless. At the banquet Julian's arm circled her waist as he whispered in her ear. She smiled sweetly. Someone asked, "Where's that Rowan kid? Wasn't he Sterling's favorite pretty toy?" "Dumped long ago. If his face didn't resemble Morgan's, someone that disgusting would never have caught the princess's eye. You all know how crazy Dylan is about Julian. When he left for abroad back then, she nearly tore Northbridge apart." Julian frowned at the mention of my name. Dylan, sensing it, kissed him as though to placate him. Then, seizing a microphone amid cheers, she announced, "The only man I've ever loved is Morgan." Her gaze turned sharp. "If anybody mentions that jealous lowlife who hurt Morgan again, don't blame me for turning nasty." The threat landed, the gossiping crowd shut up at once. A pang shot through my chest. 3 years ago, when she rescued me from the streets, the Sterling estate had buzzed with rumors about me. She had defended me with the same unwavering fierceness, offending many an acquaintance. Only now did I see that such treatment had never been exclusive to me. She had always been looking through me at Julian. 02 Late that night, after a bout of passion, sweat beaded on Julian's forehead as he lit a cigarette. "Serena, you were distracted today. Thinking about that Soren kid?" Dylan, still beneath him, reached up to stroke his shoulder, voice coaxing. "Jealous? You're the only one in my heart, always have been." Julian relaxed. "Maybe Soren didn't mean it. He just lost control when he saw me come back." Dylan cut him off with a frown. "You're too kind, forever excusing other people's crimes. If he hadn't hired those men to abduct you, your right hand wouldn't have been injured. That hand was born for the piano, yet it was damaged because of a nobody. I have to make him pay." A gleam of triumph flashed in Julian's eyes, gone almost instantly. He pulled her tight, their ragged breathing quickly merging again. Numb, I curled in the corner, watching, my heart splitting open. "Make me pay? Even if it costs me my life, you still won't spare me a glance." I longed to flee, yet my consciousness remained shackled to Dylan. Helpless, I hid in the dark, sinking into despair with every soft moan. Next morning Maya, Dylan's closest friend, came to see her. Apart from Dylan, Maya had been the kindest to me. Soren is still with those kidnappers, and you're not worried at all? Dylan's body stiffened, her face chilled. This is my first day off since the engagement. Why bring up that jinx? I just don't think Soren is the type to stage a kidnapping. Besides, Julian abandoned you without a word back then. Enough. Dylan barked, features twisted in irritation. Soren was a homeless drifter I took in, no manners, rotten habits, a twisted mind. Are you saying you know him better than I do? Morgan is the man I've loved for 7 years. Even if you're my best friend, you don't get to badmouth him. Or is it that you fancy Soren yourself? She stared at Maya, a mocking smile tugging at her lips. Not that I mind. Once he learns his place, I can loan him to you for fun. Dylan. Have you lost your mind? I care about you, and this is what you think of me. Fine, when you regret it, it'll be too late. Maya stormed out, livid. Dylan hurled a glass across the room, her expression dark and unreadable. She dug out her phone, dialed a number, then set it down again, face cold as frost. Even Maya trusts I would never do such a thing, so why can't you? I thought I had no tears left, yet they still slid down my filthy cheeks. 03 Restless, Dylan took a sleeping pill and lay down for her afternoon nap. Ever since she took over Sterling, the stress had been crushing. I used to set out her blood pressure meds and sleeping pills, coaxing her into the habit of a midday rest. Now I drifted idly through the estate I had called home for 3 years, so unfamiliar now. The wallpaper had been replaced with the icy white Julian light. The photo gallery wall I had lovingly decorated with pictures of Dylan and me had been scraped spotless. Our memories crammed the trash bins outside, hand-sewn plushies I had crafted for her, charcoal portraits she had drawn for me, nothing left but wreckage strewn across the ground. Centered on the bedroom wall hung their engagement photo, Dylan in a white wedding gown, smiling brightly, the 5-carat solitaire on her finger catching every spark of light. That same day they dragged me away. I had been planning to propose. Looking back, how could the lofty Sterling ever want someone like me? Her counterfeit affection had fed a delusion I should never have nursed. The plain silver band I'd secretly worked extra shifts to buy didn't even deserve comparison with the rock Julian had slid onto her hand. I was nothing but a laughable, pitiful shadow, nothing more. The click of the door sounded. Julian was home. Seeing Dylan asleep, he slipped into the bathroom and dialed. Didn't I tell you never to call me again? Why keep ringing? Soren, he's dead. The voice on the other end was frantic, and though I was only vapor now, I shuddered. One of my kidnappers. Julian's face darkened. I told you to rough him up a little, not kill him. Young Master Hart, we did exactly what you asked. Who knew the kid was so fragile? Please convince Sterling not to blame us. She always listens to you. The man was begging now, but Julian only smiled, confident as ever. Relax. A parentless orphan dies, so what? Serena won't even ask. Lay low for a while. Gratitude poured from the caller before the line went dead. I clenched spectral fists, shaking with rage. Julian had orchestrated everything. He had lied that Dylan had fainted, lured me to an empty spot, pretended we were both being abducted. Then, just before she arrived, he'd injured his own hand to throw all suspicion on me. Morgan, were you talking? Dylan stirred. Julian pocketed his phone instantly and went to her with a grin. No. He dropped his gaze, feigning sorrow. I was just thinking about the 3 years we lost. It hurts. Soren's got a small scrape. I've had someone take him home. Serena, promise me you'll stop seeing him, okay? Dylan blinked. Soren's hurt? How bad? Julian's expression dimmed. Dylan seemed to sense her mistake and hugged him at once. Morgan, you really are the kindest, most generous man alive. The past is past. I swear, from now on you're the only one I'll ever love. They drifted into another kiss, and I watched with icy detachment, my heart numbing by the second. Such a clumsy lie, and you swallow it whole. Dylan, how desperately do you love him? She linked her arm through Julian's and accompanied him to the hospital for a bandage change. When he hissed at a twinge of pain, her brows knit in worry, she kept stroking his palm, whispering comfort. And me? When they shattered my legs, when they blinded me, did you spare me a single thought? I lay on freezing concrete, coughing up mouthfuls of crimson, even when every breath was agony. The memory of the first time you reached out to shield me glowed like a lantern, urging me to hold on, to believe you'd remember and come. But you never came. Worse torment and death arrived instead. Once you protected me so fiercely you wouldn't let me suffer the smallest slight. Once you said, Jasper, never leave me. Outside the hospital they walked pressed together like newlyweds. Suddenly a figure caught Dylan's arm. Maya, pale as ash, voice trembling, Soren. Soren is dead. Before Dylan could speak, Julian's eyes flicked and he cut in, impossible. I had people put him somewhere safe. If you don't believe me, see for yourselves. A tremor flashed through Dylan's eyes but vanished just as quickly. He won't die. I only meant to teach him a lesson, they wouldn't dare go too far. I'll go check. Don't, Serena. You promised you wouldn't see him again. Julian stepped into her path, gaze shifting. She patted his hand. Relax. Soren's too stubborn to die that easily. I'll take one look and be right back. Dylan climbed into the car with Maya. It flew through streets and finally stopped. She stepped out and headed straight for an abandoned boathouse, flies buzzing around its half-open door. A sick foreboding seized her, she pushed the door wide, and her aloof composure cracked like ice under a hammer. Beneath a blood-soaked straw pile lay a corpse, flies circling above. The stench of rot made even Maya gag and cover her nose. I traced the kidnappers, no one's seen them for 3 days, she said through her fingers. So I came, and found Soren. She couldn't finish, she, too, was staring at my body, eyes wide with horror. Dylan dropped to her knees with a thud. Shaking fingers tried to wipe the gore from my face, but there was nothing recognizably me left, my skin a cratered mess, teeth almost gone. Is this really Soren? Who beat him like this? How many wounds did he take? Who did it? Maya stood frozen, unable to accept the ruined thing on the ground had been me. Dylan slid her arms beneath me and drew what was left of me against her, designer silk soaking up a blooming map of red. She shut her eyes, lashes quivered as tears dropped, one after another. It's him, Soren. It can't be, can't be. I won't believe he's dead. She bowed her head, brushing my cheek, whispering into my ear, Jasper, don't play jokes with Cameron, all right? Wake up, I still have so much to tell you. Her stare was hollow, despair carved deep, clutching the rot that had once been me until police arrived and pried us apart. Watching her grief, I felt only bewilderment. Weren't you the one who abandoned me here? Why mourn now that I'm lost? We found this ring clenched in Vale's palm, an officer said. He held it so tightly it must have meant everything to him. The instant that plain silver band touched Dylan's hand, her body folded and she collapsed. Autopsy report, 6 ribs fractured on each side, both arms and legs smashed, countless blunt force traumas, burns, organs ruptured, eyes destroyed. Cause of death, exsanguination. In short, I was tortured until the last drop of life bled away. The medical examiner's brows were practically knotting together as he gripped the report. I haven't seen anything this gut-wrenching in years, he said with a heavy sigh. Dylan's eyes turned blood-red the instant she heard those words. When she got home, she locked herself inside the Sterling estate. A wall of bodyguards stood outside, refusing entry to anyone including Maya and Julian. I stayed right beside Dylan the whole time. She only leaned quietly against the bed, her face chalk-white, drained of every last trace of color. One moment she cried, the next she laughed, sometimes she buried her face and rasped, sometimes she clutched her head and wailed. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink, and her eyes sank deeper by the hour until she was gaunt beyond recognition. I had never seen her this fragile. I thought it would feel like justice, but my heart still nodded in spite of itself. Frantic, I shouted at her, Dylan. I'm dead, aren't you supposed to be happy? You said I was defective, that you were going to abandon me. Well, I died just like you wanted, so what's with this phony heartbreak? But she couldn't hear me. She stayed lost in her own world, gaze unfocused, shattered and hollow. Julian tried to force his way in, practically pleading. Dylan didn't even lift her eyelids, she simply had the guards carry him out and toss him away. Days crawled by and her body grew weaker. She dug our photo out of the trash and clutched it so tightly the paper creased. She hugged the brown plushie I'd loved when I was alive and kissed it again and again with hopeless tenderness. She drifted like a living corpse, deaf to everyone, imprisoned inside herself. At last Maya couldn't stand it. She cursed the guards away, burst through the door, and slapped the crumpled Dylan across the face. Are you still the ruthless, payback-obsessed Dylan I knew? Your man is dead, and your first reaction is to weep all day like the world owes you something? Find out who killed Soren, uncover the real murderer. The next second, a spark flared in Dylan's eyes. The stagnant surface of her face rippled at last. She staggered to her feet and finally walked out of the room she'd hidden in for so long. Watching her back, my heart ached. Find the truth? If you discover Julian orchestrated my death, you'll forgive him anyway. He's the cherished first love you adored for years. I was only a beggar you took in when you were bored, half dead from hunger. Why waste another minute on me? For the next month Dylan lived at Sterling headquarters, working with the security team to track the kidnappers. She kept the police out of it and relied on the family's vast web of contacts to hunt the three men. They'd been on the run for months, ghosts in the wind, nearly impossible to pin down. Yet after countless sleepless nights she finally pinpointed their hideout and had them dragged back in chains. That day she actually smiled, black-ringed eyes sunken, hair a mess, forgetting even to eat. The pampered Sterling princess had gone this far for me? Dylan, you always hand me scraps of light just after I've given up hope, but it's too late now. Julian rushed over the instant he heard, having been dodged by her for weeks. Now that the kidnappers were caught, guilt flickered across his face, though he masked it with indignation. Serena, you promised you'd never see Soren again. He was nothing, an intruder between us. Dylan stared straight through him, no trace of the tenderness she once showed remained. During the 3 weakest, most shattered years of my life, he was the one beside me. In that time I forgot you completely. I even thought that if you never came back, I'd stay with him forever. He wasn't an intruder, he was my Jasper, the one who would never leave me, who waited at the door however late I came home, my single most important Jasper. Now he's dead, and no one has the right to stop me learning the truth, including you. Julian stood frozen. Dylan's eyes were remote, arctic. With a flick of her wrist she had guards escort him out. So Dylan still remembers every detail of those 3 years. I wanted to ask, in your heart, was I ever a disposable extra? 06 In a dim warehouse the black hoods were yanked from 3 men, each bound to a chair in the center. Dylan's gaze was glacial. Why did you kill him? She asked flatly. One of them shrugged. We didn't know the wimp would croak from a couple of punches. Yeah, and the guy had sticky fingers, tried to snatch my boss's gold watch while we slept. He deserved a lesson. The 3 rattled off a chorus of invented crimes. A deafening knock silenced them as Dylan fired into the ceiling. I know exactly what Soren was like, and he was none of those things. Tell me, what grudge could you have that justified beating him to death? Sterling, you're the one who told us to take care of him. Now you're blaming us? Another blast. This bullet clipped the man's crotch and punched through the floor. I was wrong. Sterling, please don't kill me. Sweat drenched his forehead, his whole body shook. The other 2 looked ready to faint. Dylan's eyes turned lethal, murder undisguised. Why did you kill him? When the man stammered Julian's name, Dylan froze, instinctively convinced it was a lie until he produced concrete proof of the transaction. Only then did her pupils darken with final acceptance that Julian had ordered my murder. I laughed at myself. Of course you'd never believe your spotless first love capable of this. In your mind, I'm the jealous schemer, the inveterate liar. Dylan holstered the gun and walked out. Make them suffer 1,000 times what Jasper endured. You know what to do. The guards nodded. Behind her, the men's hog-like shrieks echoed, yet the curve of her lips carried nothing but sorrow. That night warm light glowed through the windows of the Sterling estate. Dylan had prepared a lavish table, candles flickered in the corner while she slowly swirled a crystal flute of red. Julian arrived late, pale and sweating. Dylan smiled faintly. The air conditioning's too low. Are you cold? Or, are you afraid of me? Julian's answering smile was strained. He caught her hand. Of course not. I just feel lousy. Dylan lifted her crystal flute, offering to toast with linked arms. One glance at the wine and he jerked back, shaking his head. Worry crept across Dylan's face. If you're sick, turn in early. You've worn yourself out over my problems lately. I had the chef make your favorite salmon. At least taste a bite. Julian's expression softened. He picked up knife and fork, slice after slice disappearing. Dylan's lips curved. She emptied another glass, eyes pinning him. Quietly, almost lazily, she said, your right hand was never damaged by Jasper. You staged the whole thing. Was it fun, lying to me? I thought you went abroad to chase your piano dream. Instead you picked up a gambling addiction, racked up monstrous debts, and got your parents killed. Are you even the Julian I knew? His pupils ballooned. He dropped the cutlery and lunged for the door, but his throat clamped shut, a vice of sudden fire. He folded, unconscious before he hit the rug. Dylan's face glowed with a murky light. She drained the last of the wine, then signaled the guards to carry Julian to the basement. Her expression was unreadable, yet in her eyes I saw it, lunacy, absolute and final. 07 Julian woke to agony. A steel rebar skewered his right palm, chains bit through muscle to bone. Both legs had been methodically smashed, forcing him into a kneel. Facing him stood Dylan, gaze arctic. Serena, why? I don't know anything, I didn't do anything. Please let me go, everything hurts. Am I dying? Hurts? Dylan's laugh cracked like frost. Jasper hurt 1,000 times worse. What gives you the right to pain? Spare me your fairy tales. You know how I work. Tell me, why did you have to kill him? Because I was jealous. I hated him. The mask slipped, madness blazed in his eyes. Because of him you hesitated when you saw me. Because of him you couldn't decide to start over. He stole my place as your only one. That was between us, not a license to butcher him. Julian laughed, wild and shrill. You hurt him too. You never believed him. And yes, you threw him away. The instant you dumped him, he was dead. I didn't kill him, Serena. You did. His cackles ricocheted off the concrete. Dylan's eyes flooded crimson, fists clenched, sorrow carving her face. She drew the pistol and centered it on his heart. Julian's composure shattered. He held. I was your first love. 6 years, does that lose to some street stray? I killed him, so what? You'll abandon me for that? Never. She didn't answer. Her stare was glazed, remote. Lips barely moving, she whispered, I've made every mistake, arrogant, vain, gorging on Jasper's love yet stomping on it each time. I thought I was clever, invincible. I was a fool. Only after he died did I finally see, he was no stand-in. I love him. I've loved him for the longest time. You're lying, he shrieked. You promised you'd wait. You owe me. The gun roared. Julian's head slumped, disbelief frozen in his eyes. Even he hadn't thought she'd actually pull the trigger for me. I stared, gut churning. Had that been a confession? Heaven knows, if I'd heard those words while alive, I'd have died happy. Now everything had changed, and happiness was nowhere inside me. Sorry, Cameron. A belated love letter is the last thing I want. 08 When it was finished, Dylan merely ordered the mess cleaned, showered, changed as though murder were an everyday chore. She retrieved the broken frame from the trash and tried to fit the pieces back together, desperate to rebuild a memory. But fractures stay fractures, I can't return. She buried her head in folded arms and sobbed raw, ragged, a child admitting the unforgivable. Over and over she rasped, "I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry." Dawn slid through the curtains before exhaustion claimed her. Tear tracks mapped her face, her brows still knotted in sleep. I leaned closer, trying to smooth that knot with phantom fingers, then remembered I no longer had hands. I settled beside her, senses thinning, lids falling. Was I fading? When light returned I drifted in a nowhere place, white mist curling like silk. At its center someone knelt, crying as though the world had already ended. I moved nearer Dylan. So this was her dream. She sensed me, looked up, and light leapt inside her eyes. She sprang, arms open. Instinct answered, I caught her. Warm palms pressed to my back, her faint familiar perfume flooding me. Jasper, it is you. I missed you so much. Don't leave. Stay with me forever, please. Gone was the proud Iceris, her voice trembled, pleading. The hug was the same one I'd never wanted to end, yet this time I was the one to step back. Cameron, you know I can't. I'm dead. Nothing can rewind. My life was always yours, I'm only returning the debt. She snatched my hands, melting into me again. No. Don't be cruel. I was wrong, I misjudged you, I'm sorry. Tears splashed onto my invisible skin, cold pinpricks that stung. I don't want your life, I want you. That ring dash, she lifted her hand. It was for proposing, wasn't there? Look, I still wear it. The plain silver band encircled her fourth finger, but to me it had long since lost every glimmer. I slipped it off, hurled it into the void, in an instant it powdered and vanished. Dylan's sob cracked louder. She gazed up, begging for the mercy I no longer owned. I gently stroked her hair, my voice softening. Cameron, I don't blame you, maybe I never really did. It was me who clung to every second beside you, cornering you into an impossible choice. I'm sorry. But my heart hurts so much that another glimpse of you feels like fire scorching my skin. In the next life, let's never meet again. Dylan shook her head frantically, screaming no, her fingers clamped around my hand, refusing to let go. I felt my consciousness dissolving, at last I faded away in her arms. She shook her head violently, crying no, no, but she couldn't stop my leaving. I watched her face blur as though time were rewinding to our first encounter. Back then my parents who had loved me most were dead, and I'd lived. I gave up on myself, drifted homeless, yearned for death. It was her gentle gaze that pulled me from the nightmare, her warm embrace that made me want to live again. But things didn't turn out that way. Goodbye, my beloved Dylan. Even without me, you must go on living, really living. Extra chapter: Dylan's point of view from childhood. My world seemed to hold just one word: easy. As the eldest granddaughter of Northbridge's elite Sterling dynasty, the money and power most people can only envy were mine from birth. Studying was easy too, my photographic memory let me top every grade without effort. All around me were gasps of praise: exceptional, peerless, heaven's favored daughter. Yet I had a secret: I wasn't peerless at all. I was tone deaf, and I'd hidden it for years, skipping every music class, lip-syncing every choir performance. Only one person knew: Julian, the scholarship music student. Commoners never entered my sights unless they were special. He was frail but feigning steel. He'd crawl from the dirt after a beating, wash off, slip into the piano studio, and unleash impossibly difficult pieces to vent the pressure. He had a beautiful voice, I'd admit that much. When he uncovered my secret, I guarded his. Life went on, unspoken, until he composed a song and confessed. Until he risked his life to save me from his own enemies. I was moved. We were together, and those days were bliss until he dumped me, took my father's payoff, and left for Europe. Cliché as a soap opera. That night I smashed half the Sterling estate, cursed the parents I'd revered for 18 years, became the maniac who almost tore Northbridge apart. Truth is, I've always been rebellious, never the good girl. If Julian wanted to leave, then I'd wait for him to make his name, come back, and marry me. Teenage love feels eternal, irreplaceable, at least it did, until I met Soren. When I first passed him, he was filthy and reeking, skin stretched over bones. I didn't walk away, I stopped, because the tune he hummed was the one Julian had sung to me countless times, my favorite song. Bringing him home only delighted me more, his face was Julian's echo. At first I treated him as a stand-in, but soon I saw how different they were. If Julian was a proud, aloof kitten, Soren was a pure, devoted puppy, tiny, trailing me, calling Cameron, Cameron, until something inside me melted. Running Sterling exhausted me, every day meant sparring with boardroom dinosaurs, dodging rivals' knives, even fending off trusted lieutenants ready to stab my back. But the mansion felt warm because he waited on the marble steps, blankets I ordered to keep the cold from his skinny frame, balanced bowls of fragrant food for my return. He loved photos, we'd shoot hundreds, and I never grew annoyed because he promised we'd watch them when we were old. I loved sketching him, the long dense lashes, the clear black eyes. He framed each drawing like treasure. People say I spoiled him, I won't deny it. Even Maya said my eyes were regaining their light. Soren's parents died half a year ago, he'd wanted only to die until my arrival made him abandon the thought. He called me light that brightened his world. I wanted to say, you are mine, but Dylan doesn't speak that way, so the word stayed unsaid, forever unsaid. Soren slowly erased Julian from my heart. 3 years later, when Julian returned, he felt like a stranger, his once clear eyes clouded. He waved, uneasy nod at me. Hadn't I wished for this reunion? Yet why, afterward, could I no longer meet Soren's fiercest hugs? While my mind tangled, my bodyguards reported he'd been slipping out, meeting a woman. Rage eclipsed sense. When Julian proposed, I said yes. When he texted that he'd been abducted, when I saw his mangled right hand, I condemned Soren without asking. When I saw his broken body, every pretense shattered. All I wanted was him, only him. I'd been wrong, guilty of the worst mistake, and I'd lost the one I loved. Until he wept that in the next life, and the next, and forever, he never wanted to see me again. Only when that nightmare ended did my heart finally collapse. I'm sorry, Jasper. Cameron can't forgive herself. Let me die quietly, maybe on the bridge of farewells we'll meet one last time. If there's another life, let me be the puppy beside you, guarding you, loving you purely, wildly, completely.